Today we talk about the Sanctuary Guard deck profile. So this deck profile will kind of be a combination between a tournament report and a deck profile. Because today I went to the Dark tournament, which is like the biggest locals, so to speak, in Belgium. But it's getting so large, it's no longer really a locals. It's pretty high level as well. I'll first go over the deck profile and then tell you how everything went down. So the starter is Vanguard Brave. Reason I went for him instead of Milius is because I run more of the blaster engine than other people do. So he becomes actually very consistent and becomes really handy because he can search out Blaster Dark Spirit when he boosts Blaster Friend Bargle in the beginning. So being able to ensure the Blaster Dark Spirit ride is actually really nice. Or if you already have plenty of Blaster Blades, you can go search for another Bargle. Or you can go search for a Blaster Blade if you don't have it already. Then for Sanctuary Guard, I understand that a lot of people these days prefer Arc. I get why, but I really like the fact that he's on ride. Not being GB restricted is amazing. I might, however, go to another ratio of these. So as you can see, I run one Arc. I only run 5 grade 3s. That's enough to stride. Today also showed that I never really had issues of not striding. Then 4 Blaster Blade, all from the first trial deck. Very nice. Obviously it runs the Blaster engine. On your Regale turn, this one with Flogo can do some amazing shenanigans. So yeah, we run 4 of that. 4 Benon. Benon is an amazing card, especially in the early game. You call him, you pay a counter blast, you get your Miron, which is a 6k, Soul Blast 1, draw. So it's basically a +2 just from this card. Really amazing. Then for Liu, this guy will search for your Blaster Blade. In theory, you could search for Blaster Blade Spirit as well, but you never do. So you always search for Blaster Blade. 1 Blaster Blade Spirit. Being able to ride a 10k body will stop people from rushing you. And it's pretty consistent considering that Vanguard Brave can search this guy. 1 Blaster Blade Rapier. Odd name. I probably mispronounce it, but whatever. This is just another blaster to ride at the beginning. Swing, maybe get your Vanguard Brave off. Running 1 is probably not enough to warrant using it in a Link Joker matchup, but oh well, it's a nice card. 4 Stride Fodder. We only run 5 grade 3s, so it's very handy to actually run your Stride Fodder. Also, this one is signed. I hope I can get the 3 other signed ones, but that's not for now. 4 Mirons. Amazing with Bannon. Also, when you use Sanctuary Guard's skill to call a grade 1 or lower, you can often use this one, get your draw. What I will often do is I have my Bannon from the early game, I use him to intercept, and then later I can fill this spot with a Miron I get via Sanctuary Guard. Next up, 4 Blaster Friend Bargle. Obviously he's a blaster, so works with Vanguard Brave. You can search him with Vanguard Brave as well. You get your counter charge pretty often, because usually you ride Blaster Blade or Blaster Blade Spirit. And yeah, then you get your counter charge. I actually had to snipe rear guards with Blaster Blade quite often this tournament, so that counter charge really came in handy. Counter charge is also a pretty big problem with this version of the deck, because you don't run unflip PGs, you don't run heals. So yeah, pretty tough, really handy this guy. I run 2 Quintet Walls and that's it. Now, some people might not agree with this. Let me explain. The big issue is that this deck wants to win on the first stride. It usually does not survive past the second stride. So your PGs are first pretty useless, and secondly, you don't have the hand for it. This deck will usually only have 4 cards in hand, sometimes 5. So you simply do not have enough cards to use perfect cards. And in the early game, perfect cards are pretty much dead in your hand. Considering 90% of your Vanguard career with this deck will be early game, PGs are fucking worthless. Also, we obviously don't have the counter blast for running 4. Usually we really don't need these, so you usually see 1 every game, and that's more than enough. This deck needs to win on its first or second stride, or it's dead. If you think you're gonna run Sanctuary Guard with your 4 heals and your G Guardians, you do not know how the deck works, because overall, this deck, obviously it's a great engine, but it lags behind other decks once it comes to the late game. In the late game, other archetypes got buffed so much that you can't keep up. So you want to make sure the late game never fucking happens. That's why this whole build is optimized for the early game and won't even consider the late game. You know, once you're there, you're done. And then 16 crits. I run a lot of random shit, just crits I like. I'm hoping to get some more of these fancy ones. I did notice one thing. These two Gororos, I often had to guard very weirdly because of them, and I never used them for striding. Reason being, again, and this was my mistake actually, this deck is built for the early game, and these cannot be used to guard early, obviously, because you have to go for 15 and never need 15, so I will be replacing them with other normal crits. So that was my bad. It was not a rational decision. Then obviously these crits are very important for your Blaster Blade plays, but apart from that you can pretty much run any of them. Now for the G-Zone, I built this deck with next to no money. So I have my 4 Regale, and that's pretty much it. I mean, I have these cards, but I never use them. I've got these 2 Sane Blows, never use it. I got this, never use it. G-Assist Fodder, never use it. This, never use it. Never use it. Seabreeze, sometimes. I might, like, this is pretty handy. Never used it though. And then these 3 G-Guards. I figured if someone sees them in my G-Zone when I'm like flipping him over, they'll think, oh cool G-Guards, now I know he's playing heals, but I'm not, so fuck you, haha. So now for the tournament report. My first game was against Nova Grappler, the Victor build. This deck just rushed the hell out of it and it couldn't keep up. He was a good player, but it's just this deck rushes so much harder than Victor could ever dream to do. The first game, I didn't see any critical trigger. I went through the used cards from that game and there was 1 critical trigger and all the rest were cards like these. Even triggers weren't even necessary. That's just a matchup. Second game was a little more exciting. That was against 7 Seas with the Ruin Shade and stuff. So not the Rush build, but actually the Night Mist build. I won first game, lost second game, won third game. In that matchup, I have a slightly stronger early game. I just gotta make sure we don't get to late game. The issue is he can kinda rush back. So that was a little harder. Overall, I still won. I lost the second game because of, well, trigger bullshit. But yeah, I then faced him also in the top 8 again, and there I won 2-0. Third game, I actually lost. I went against Harmony. The thing with Harmony is he just guarded early, didn't rush me back, and he got me to late game because his hand got huge. I also got pretty shitty luck there because I never saw my Blaster Blades. He healed a few times, I didn't see crits, but oh well. It was a matchup I knew was going to be tough, so I lost that one 2-1. Fourth match was against Blue Wave. There I went 2-1 as well. I lost once because obviously if you get the Tidal Assault and the Foivos and you just rush me back, it can get kinda hard. Overall I did win in the end. We're both friends and actually made some dumb misplays by doing banter. So that cost him the game and cost me the game at the same time. So that was pretty funny. In the end I did get the 2-1. Then top 8, funnily enough, the 7Cs player from before, we had said like, oh yeah, see you in top 8, all jokingly. But in the end we did actually see each other in top 8, which was like hilarious for a moment. I did win 2-0 because the rush was just too strong. Then I faced Nova Blah, which is actually way stronger than I thought. I went 2-0 though. And then the finals, where I went up against another Blah Nova deck. On the first game I had to G-assist, he got 2 draw triggers, then some more trigger bullshit, and I just got wrecked that first game. Then the second game I rushed him so hard, he died in like the first stride I think, and then the third game he beat me again. I made one mistake. The one mistake wasn't the killing blow, just the overall game killed me. Some trigger bullshit, non-ideal hand. Overall it was just a really good player. I got caught off guard because I had no idea Blah Nova could be so good. So yeah, that was a tournament. Overall I got second place. The deck performed really well. It was incredibly consistent. There was not a lot of trigger sacking or anything like that. Whereas for Great Nature, my main deck, I do need that a lot. So yeah, it was really interesting. I love how consistent this deck is because I hate RNG. Was a nice run. Was kinda salty that I had to G-assist that first game and then the double draw trigger defensive and all that shit. The finals were actually recorded, so if you'd like to check out those games, I'll link them up. And yeah, make sure you subscribe if you want to see any kind of video like strategy or a deck profile, just tell me.